Mafanyaguzo gi Julio 25, 1934, gida Hagåtña. Si patererado na tiempo manasaga man bisino ama sa Hagåtña. Togay. Si tan remedyon agun, mafananan sa remedyon kiso. Guamas amko, segundo si yadi matay na silo si Eduardo John McDonald Calvo. Then mas joven na silo si Gerald Tomas McDonald Calvo. My mother's maiden name was Veronica Mariano McDonald. Her mother was Dolores Kitugua Mariano, and her father was John Francis Creeley McDonald, and she was born in 1913. If you're passing through O'Brien Drive, there's a step which doesn't go all the way up, because halfway up, going up toward the governor's place, is their house, the McDonald house. This is known as Togay before the war, but now everything is Hagåtña. My father was born in Hagåtña on June 30th, 1909. He was born in a house that now where the governor's garden apartment is. That was where my grandparents were staying, a house before the war. So he was one of 13 children, and he was number 4.
It was Adela Macias, and then Ismael Calvo, Trinidad Calvo, Eduardo Calvo, and then Herminia Calvo Macias later on, because she married her brother-in-law when her sister died, and then my mom, and then Flora Cepeda, and then Ricardo Calvo, and then Angelina Brown, the one that was married to James Butler, and then Carlos.
His mother is Regina Martinez Torres, and his brother Vicente Martinez Torres is married to a Tomasa Perez Calvo, and they were living on what is now where the dialysis is. By the way, that's the place where all 3 of us, me and my late brother Eddie and my brother Jerry, were all born. Gimantis na mege naguma no atofnihan na no ida agentisin no guana di teha. Giba mami no para kusina kwatu na pada guaha no sin no pinateha dari kusina no sina na. Da bula lokri no Hagåtña na no atofna. Sino nahu dan si tataho gaigi gisalitsan na banda. Hamina dos dan si Eddie gaigi am Garilia gigi mafana dan si Sara si familia Rosario gagigi aja na guma no manasagam gui dan umbihan iti ang tataho si Tomasa Perez Calvo si baha inagang si bata na matay si Asaguanas bidulaan gua si orthopedic science at tayo famagod si Spirancian at Saigwa. Para hudung ibata lang por gagi des basaga gwi siya ansa gigi banda gwi na ihud gi kusina kulang wahu no kiriduna gwi biha sa tao kiriduna pues to tempo na kulang gwa mas mate tindi. My mother was very much a home person. She just wants to be at home when she got married. She never went to finish her high school. And so, she rules the house. And she rules my father when he's at home. She's a pretty strong woman. And of course, my father was a pretty strong man, too. My father was a banker. He worked for the Bank of Guam. And so he usually hands his check over to Ma. When they got married, it wasn't too long with that change. and the check is actually in the possession of Mom. I learned very well to be obedient and try to do as much as I can. If I must confess, I think my brother Eddie got more spanking than I did. But all my mother was to say, just wait until your father comes and we'll know what to do with this. Even if me and Eddie were having a disagreement. We both got it if we don't stop right there and then. He was strict. I mean, he was loving and strict, but when he asked you to do something, and most of those that are, because the Spanish have a lot of influence, and Ba makes sure that he's very much into his religion, into his church, but at the same time, he's a fair person. He really believes that you treat your fellow man the way you want it to be treated, and so he was very fair in that, very honest, and he would like to help and all that, but he also does have a temper, so that if he's angry, you would know that he's angry.
What do you remember of Hagåtña?
It's a beautiful city. Pero Martínez, antes de guerra, toda era comerciante más que neste Pedro. Daí decía, você nasce bonito, tu decía, castillo, castle.
Hafamohan mo na bonito Hagåtña estaba?
Mauli que salam, kulan español, na izoniano, tesme. Además, man que espada, como igual.
Mano naman eskwela hamzu?
Door hole. There's a door hole here. I got to go for the plaza. Kada for that the post office. That. Well, for that look eskwela, really risco, post office sa papa. Ado siya na so. Pero man sa hiuta na sti gagige plaza di espada. Pero guarda vi for mas do no sagwan siya na. I door hole kaya ganun. Sandok, umalong yung ciudad okay na. In fact, sige an incident na an okasyon na kanadyo umatay na. Hagåtña na esti pagwe na kaya itatita pasyon yung sana. Puro gina tiempo no pinat honong na. Puro do siya no violenza. Man bulldosa ga Hagåtña na. Kaya dam, ado gato pagwe punta kita kata dari para gato kisado. Pues mabisibna na loki na dan siya budazo. Sa no batungam na si defunto dalo budazo. Pues mapusam ne da. Adi na balu americano ne. Adi dam ne. Bula na sta kandi wahi siya ne. Pues hamian si dano no. Tiatungan sila na hosti pada. Infadar man gagan raman eh, but two legs para sa. Pues bakpo sa mne pa. Nabi punyat, dagger, flashlight, candy, and 150. Buda ki dam ne. Da maipi na, tingin na ani, sen maipi. Pues Hagåtña na dis ti pagwi di basin. Wa no ena si daru ito mak la kututu no mangun no ena ambi bula reinforcing rod man la kihilan ena mi ganza di wigi do moneda ta basa plaza pues guida no malo magada kulan no mangun nai hun lo tinuag batu kisadong wow no so que estilo malofan un vaporcito da matinas no da con eso. Pues, no tungo tayo di near death sa uli ya. Kadaluli si Manuelan Salas. Nasa waganis da akututo si sinaw. Kulan sila po kati. Kulan nesta no. Pues no sensitive na gwasya no. Nasta na gwasta pa ako ulilya sa na tauto da palug Boy Scout. Nabat ina malago si Dano da man organ na judo. Da svetina sa gwalo ki kam gini na di wini di inalo americano. Pues ma. Nabat boto no pada 12x4 di upside down do. Alak mo siya. Pues pulis ni sila pinaporsuno kana baba. Jerry was a baby when Guam was invaded. He was born in July 20th, 1940. We were invaded by the Japanese. We were sleeping, and I think my parents were going to, because 8th of December, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. So they went to Mass. And I think the Mass, the priest tell them to go home because Sumai was being bombed. And so all we know is we were sleeping and they woke us up to run to go to our ranch. Our ranch is where we're staying now, because that was my mother's cousin was tending to what we call our ranch, Carlos Mariano Santos. Another relative of my mother, the Marianos, they have a place up in the Radio Barrigada, Adacao, they call it Adacao Barrigada. And so we went up there. And it was there that we stayed until everything was settled down when we were visited by the late Mr. Shinohara. We are related to him because Shinohara is married to a tourist, and to tell us that you better go down to Hagåtña, telling to my parents, and have a pass. In other words, because if you don't wear a pass, you might be hurt.
見よ東海の空来て食いふじと価格こみ焼き場戦士な戦士はちゅらちゅと希望アドラおやしばお
What does that mean?
It's a marching song, and then they let us look to the north and the national anthem.
君がよさされ
There's somebody that came. There was some Chamorro, but are sympathizers from Saipan or the Buko and Si Martin. Right after we were starting, we were staying in Maite. They came. He came with a Japanese, I don't know, an officer or a soldier, accompanying them, because they speak Chamorro. And they came to my house, so we went out. So as soon as they were coming, the kids told us, so we stayed up, but we were peeking out. And it was my mother and my father. So the Japanese soldier looked up at the coconut tree. So I said to my father, in other words, so the interpreter told them he wanted my father to climb up and get a coconut for him. My mother said, my uncle Charlie McDonald, and they were living with us also in my Uncle Charlie, go you. The Japanese said, no, the one's my father. And she said, no. Then the Japanese said, instead of, my God, we were just watching, instead of the Japanese being angry, he started to laugh. So finally, my uncle, Charles, didn't write. He took a Fusinos and got the coconut down. But you can see my mother, she was quite a fighter. Then, when the Americans were coming back, the bombardment, the ship in the day, pum 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 pum. American planes were in the daytime, and in the nighttime it's the cannon from the ship. So we went up to Maimai, they call it, which is behind Father Reyes High School. That's where we stayed when Americans started coming back. And I remember it because I took my grandmother to see her comadre, So my Uncle Jim, he hitched the bakar atilong, in other words, the black cow, and he told me to drive my grandmother to see her comadre, and told me, esta Rosie guaca, muga madi Rosie, guaca sa no Balamanya. So I took Ma, and we went. It was less than 2 hours that I just I didn't just sit there, but I just went around, looking around, wait for Ma to, then when we're coming back, there's an incident that happened. When I was coming back, this is before we got to where the church is, the Pongo church is. Anyway, I was driving the Bacanatilon, and I look up, and I say, "Hey Ma, ibuteza, atana ibet ko na ibe." Say, it was a plane dropping bomb, and then I heard, "Hey Ma, atana." I turned around, Ma is already running into the chapel, the little chapel. And so Ma said, "No, bomb mazu, balagol, mungazu mosta, balmanu." I hear, udis onsi baka. As afraid as I was to do it, and I rode on the cow all the way back to where we are. And to tell my Uncle Jim, I told him the story that si Ma na ti balago mano por saga agbi ki por di gumadus. In other words, upolo agbi si Ma dani kareta na pas vida tumulia di kumode si Ma. So we stayed there until we marched from there to Manyengan, and from Manyengan, we walk over the mountain to Hagåtña for, after the invasion, when we were asked to. I pitied my wife because, all we had to do is walk from there down to up to Hagåtña, and then as you come down to Hagåtña, that's where it turned into Manyengan. So our walk was only that. My wife had to walk all the way from Jigo. And then, but they rested, and we rested too, because that's a long walk that we did.
On the good ship, lollipop, it's a sweet trip to a candy shop where bonbons.
And what fair is complete without a children's parade?
Lemonade stands everywhere, cracker jack bands fill the air, and there you are, happy landing on a chocolate bar.
Senso mas laudo, kada mas di radio, kada radio mana, adi pabe approach sa ni pelan ni, pabe agak so atan, kita mengagam sedangnya atan kuatu si Rosa. Though I didn't have the nerve to approach her, ni, pues ani waktu tadi ni, kini sister, I went as a freshman to GW, pues uliliak bisi Rosa ni. Pues un viaje de mi fila para Guabamin's plywood, si Vicente Calvo, con la coccano sti, dopo Brigada, si Bafanan si plywood, si Gogisan mena, da si plywood gisantati da pogo gimeni no pumpkin ne, dan si hepo. Istiges di tanah sih sedikit di zenzamuna titis na pelat atana atan tati sa si Rosa ne Lugar you, that's an opening. Upaniti si donna si play with the marong so. Lo pues si hasuri ko. Si testasti esta malangmus esti tinsidenteko.
I first met him, I saw him actually. I was going to school at GW, George Washington High School. I was lining up, you know, to drink in the fountain. And way up, I saw somebody. I don't even know him until later on. I found out that was Paul Calvo. Somebody yelled and said, "Hey, Paul, is that the girl that you said you liked back there?" I saw him run. I said, "Oh my God," to myself, "Oh my goodness, he ran away."
Zo malo?
Zomalo si Paul, very tough. So he was telling me, "It's so hard to approach me." I said, "Why?" So from there on, I don't see him at all.
Pues guane gui tableto gui sa consitane da signo metotsum ne gui. Pues tu guane sta so ma kasi rosa para di papre para homemaking o gagi sa papa gui ne gida GW. Pues una tu guane malolo fan gui. Pues kolo do metotsum gui ne. Sta pues con la license sa no con la ormantiu ti malolo fan ne. Pesa ne malolo fan sta mol mangalopio ma lo hongan ne. Leku malago to be kane liblomo. No, tada lenya no ya jo ne. Pues su tatilla ne. No atutonya ne.
He already knows where you walk from one class to another. That was a concert hall here, GW. So I was walking to drink water, and Paul was sitting on top of, those concert huts. He was sitting up there, and then when I passed, he jumped down and he asked me to carry my books. So I gave him my books. That's how I became acquainted with him. Started talking, following me to go down to my other class, another concert hall. So, okay, he gave me my books, and he asked me, do I have any chance? I said to him, I'll let you know tomorrow. Really? I said, I'll let you know tomorrow. Sure enough, the following day, he asked me again. I said, oh, sure. So that's how it started. We meet and talk only at school because my father was very strict. You know, those days, they don't let you go out so I only see Paul in school, and that's it. We talk, and that's it. We don't date. No such thing as dating. So we became acquainted, and then became boyfriend, girlfriend. He was here just for 1 year. Then he left. He went back to Texas for high school. We communicate, during those days. There was no phone, and we just write to each other. Paul writes to me a lot, but with me, I was so busy and got tired of writing and writing. So I gave him a Dear John letter. It really hurts. Was telling me. When you're still young, you like to mingle with other people, right? Long distance relationship, really, it's not a wise idea. Well, but
Did you date anyone while he was gone?
Friends, of course. After we broke up for maybe a year or two, after graduation here from high school, I went to college, the Territorial College at that time. It was only a 2-year program. So I went to a full-time college. Then on my second year, because I took education, I was teaching, like a student teacher, and then this is for my second year of college. At night time, I go to class. Daytime, I was teaching. It was so hard, really, very hard. But that summer, my auntie took me to the States to attend my sister's graduation. My older sister, Catalina, she graduated from Ann Arbor, Michigan as a nursing student. So my auntie took me from here. We ended up in LA, and Paul came over and met me in LA. And so we connect each other again. That was vacation time. So maybe he was because they have a house in Mountain View. Anyway, so he drove us from LA with my auntie, from LA to San Francisco to drop us at the airport. And with my auntie Felisa. So that was it. Then we started communicating again. Then when I came back from Ann Arbor, Michigan, we met at the airport, and that's when he proposed to me. Right there, he said to me, remember what we said when we were going out, that one of these days we'll get married? I said, yeah, I think so. So really, that summer, when we came back here in 1956, we got married here. And let me tell you, because you know, I don't have my mother. It was just my dad and my aunts. Everything was arranged by his family. My dress, everything. The reception. That was so nice of them. Oh, here's another thing. I was very late, about maybe half an hour late. I was waiting for my father. I think my father maybe to take me up to we got married at St. Jude in St. Anna. So somebody called me down and said, Rosie, they're waiting for you. I didn't realize the time. I was still fixing my hair. So my father took me up, but he did not walk. It was my uncle who walked me in. You know, the groom is not supposed to meet me, no, to meet you down at the car where. But Paul went down and met me at the car and walked me in. He was not supposed to be there, but anyway, I was so late. They were so nervous. His birthday was on the 25th. We got married on the 28th. And I never knew his birthday. I didn't even say happy birthday because I didn't know his birthday. So we got married on the 28th at 7 in the morning. And Paul was sick. We were supposed to be staying somewhere here in a small quonset. And this was right after the wedding. His mom was right there, putting Vicks, on this sick boy. So we stayed here for maybe like a week, and then we left. We went back to California for him to finish his schooling. I just stay home and take care of the house. They have a house there. It's an old house in Mountain View. Yeah, we lived until he graduated from Santa Clara. Eddie and Francis were there, and Hagåtña. A lot of people were staying in that house, so they put us up in the attic. A lot of people. No honeymoon. Eddie moved back to Guam, Eddie and Francis. Everyone went. So it was just us, the two of us. In a big house. It's an old house, and sometimes you hear cracking. You know, it's an old house. It was scary. Yeah, being by yourself in an old house.
What did you do during the day?
Nothing. Oh my goodness. It was good because Auntie Peping de Palomo, Josephine is Grandma's sister, Josephine Palomo. So she lives close by, so she was always checking on me because, you know, I was all by myself. And I get so lonely by being by myself all day, because when Paul goes to school in the morning, he comes home late. Then I became pregnant with Vera, my oldest one. In fact, Vera attended the graduation of her dad. It was so nice. From there on, we moved back to Guam. We live here, and then he started working with Chick Whitfield as a car salesman. From there to Calvo's Insurance. I was so busy with taking care of my Vera, my oldest one. Then I became pregnant. I had babies almost every year, so I was so busy with my own thing at home. I got so sick, vomiting, and
Every time?
oh yeah, vomit. That's why as I said, 3 doctors told me to quit. I get so sick, very skinny. Yeah, I had a hard time. So yeah, that's my role, being a full-time mother. We usually hire people to help me in the house. They don't last long. They don't last long, let me tell you, especially with the boys. The boys are, with the girls, they just play with their dolls, but the boys fighting and running around, they're so different, those 2 boys.
Did they fight a lot?
Oh yes, of course. Kathy was very tough. Kathy was my tough one too. She fights with them. The 2 boys, they don't like to go to school. So every morning, my husband had to go and call Jerry to come over and help him, because they go under the bed. They're hiding. They were hiding. They don't want to go. So Paul had to go, come on, brother, come and help me, because to take them out of under the bed to go to school. They don't like to go to school. The boys are the hardest one, because they are so different. The girls are more with their dolls, and you can talk to them, and but my husband was very helpful, very, very good father.
Why did you tell them, wait till your dad comes home?
To scold you, but not to spank. I just pick up my slipper and I go like this, wait until your father comes. I don't like to spank. Paul, he spanks. Sometimes I cry. I don't like to see spanking. But I guess with boys, they need, I don't know, some kind of punishment. But yeah, it was rough, but we're blessed. Look at them now. They're so wonderful. They're always checking, you have food to eat? Can I get you something? Yeah, it's nice to have a big family. We're blessed, really. Coming from a small family, there are only 3 of us, and Paul has only 3. So it's nice to have a big family.
Who is more like their father of all your kids?
Maybe Eddie. My son Paul, quiet, right? Eddie's more blah, 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 talkative.
Maybe that's why he's the governor.
Yeah, they're my boy.
I compare my son Eddie to my father, because my father is, in terms of his natural intelligence, and Ed in terms of with his siblings, when they kind of stumble on things. Hey, let's ask Ed. At one point in time, Eddie, he wanted to memorize the encyclopedia.
How did Paul interact with the children?
You mean my husband?
Yes.
Well, he was very helpful he gives them a bath, the 2 boys. He gives baths to the 2 boys and take care of the girls. He was very helpful to me. And then, of course, Eddie, he doesn't like to eat. Paul was very patient, my husband. He goes after Eddie with the spoon. Eddie, 1, 2, 3, Eddie, open your mouth. He had to force Eddie because Eddie doesn't like to eat. And he's so skinny, he was very skinny. Look at him now.
He was a skinny guy, little guy. And so I used to feed him, He's very choosy about what he would not eat eggs because he knows where it's coming from and how it comes about. so I mean, and one thing about my son is he's a very religious, and you know, we're all human, but he tries to abide by the good book. So my father started out from a very, very low position at the bank and rose to being the highest local man. My father has always been very disturbed by the treatment sometimes that we are being treated as natives, because he sees that people that are newcomers, even hired newcomers, are being paid very low wages. Some say coolie wages, whereas those that are coming in are getting better pay. So, and it came up in the Gazeta that he's saying that he was very, that, you know, we are being paid very low wages. And when he said that, you know, everybody was raised except him. And that's how the company started, because my father at that time was handling insurance, and primarily for the bank. And the bank primarily at that time was marine insurance, and that's not too many people have automobiles. In fact, since they have stores with his brothers in San Antonio, pretty close to where the bridge is right now, they only have one Dodge, and they take turn driving it. It wasn't until our neighbor, Dr. Lionel Weaver, I still remember his name, he was a naval officer, and they have a car. And so when he left the island, because in preparation for, I guess they're already seeing World War II coming, my father, they saw he had a car, so my father bought that car. Then we had a car just before the war. So that's how my father started his business, when he quit the bank and concentrate strictly on, and he was operating out of our living room, where, like I said, where the dialysis right now is where we live. That's how he started. In fact, he hired our neighbor. One of the daughters there, Lourdes, was his secretary. And of course, my mother was helping too. And so that's how Calvo's Insurance started. Of course, representing AI, at that time it's not AIG, it's AIU, American International Underwriters. So I was only 4 years old when my father started that business.
It was my uncle Eduardo Calvo, by the way, that was instrumental in getting my father the agency to start Carbolito's Insurance Agency. My father, before that, was working for George O'Keefe. George O'Keefe, I don't know if you remember the name, he was married to Lena Bilardi, who just passed away just recently. Okay, my dad and George were very good friends for some reason. And George started Global Insurance Company on Guam. He was a very innovative, pragmatic man. He was a good businessman. He got Mrs. Butler, or Auntie Butler. I believe he got Pedro and Ada. He got some of the big business people, except Uncle Eduardo, to invest in this insurance company that he started in Aniguac, right across the governor's place there, the corner there. I remember it very well. And he asked my father, I think my dad was working for, I think my father was the director of revenue and taxation at that time. And he asked my father if he could come and work for him as the general manager of Global Insurance. And my dad said, sure, paid him good money. And so my dad worked for George O'Keefe for a while until the old man Calvo was offered the Capital Insurance and Surety Company of Manila to represent that, for Calvo to represent that company on Guam, the general agent. And Uncle Eduardo couldn't do it because of AIU. You know, he'd been with AIU for many years then, and he wasn't going to jeopardize that relationship. So he said, but I have a good man. I can't do it, but I have a good man that can do it for you. And he thought of my dad. So he mentioned it to my father. And my dad said, yeah, it sounds like an opportunity for me. So they went to the Philippines, and Uncle Eduardo introduced my dad to the principals of Capital Insurance. And they were impressed enough. They said, okay. And that was the start of Carbolytos Insurance. Carbolytos was not the forerunner for Calvo, no, on the contrary. Then Eddie Calvo came to a trip to San Francisco, and he was going to see the freight forwarder who was sharing an office with Jones and Guerrero in San Francisco. He saw me in my office, and he said, Primo, what are you doing here? And I said, I work here, Primo. He said, for Jones? I said, yeah. He says, hey, listen, you know, my brother Paul is planning on running for governor. This is 1973 then. And, you know, we need somebody here in the States to run his campaign. And at that time, the election code was that if you had the intention of returning to Guam, okay, you can vote. It doesn't matter whether your intent is 25 later on.
One day in your life.
He's right. So they offered me the job. So he and Ken Jones made a deal that I will end the year 73 with J&G in San Francisco, and I will start January 1 for Calvo in the States. And I opened up my office as a campaign office. And when Paul lost that election, Eddie decided to keep the office open as a purchasing office then. And so I did it. I had a staff, a warehouse, and we did the purchasing for PCC at that time. And then they acquired Pepsi from Ken Jones. I did the purchasing for that. Then they acquired the Payless Markets from Jones. I did the buying for that. The theaters, I did all that purchasing for them. 31 years. Then I retired in 2005. So it's been a nice, joyous, profitable ride for me with the Calvos. I enjoyed my tenure with them.
I just always had great respect for Governor Calvo and for his brothers and for the dad whom I never met. And right now, as we're recording this, Calvo's Insurance is celebrating 80 years of service to the community. Bank Pacific in July will be celebrating 65 years. So again, it was just that those guys recovering from post-World War II, when things were booming, there was so much opportunity, and there was that small group of entrepreneurs who latched onto it. You know, he was one of the original members of the Bank Pacific's board of directors back when we were Guam Savings Loan, and when we opened up in 1954, and Governor Calvo was one of our members because he came, you know, he's the son of Jake Calvo. Jake Calvo, one of the pioneers. Jake I never met, but he was one of my grandfather's buddies. You know, there was a gang. There were the Martinezes, the Calvos, my grandfather, and some Frank D. Perez, King Guerrero, and because I look at my grandfather's investments, so many of them were with the same people. And in fact, he was I think with the Calvo family, with the theaters. And I believe the Calvo family had shares in Mariana's Finance. So they swapped that. They did that in the early 70s, because I can remember when that happened. The good thing about the Calvo family is it's transcended down from Jake Calvo to Governor Calvo and his brother Eddie and his brother Jerry, and they were all business people. And now that Jerry's passed on, he's given some to his children. Of course, Eddie's passed on, and you see John and Champ and even their children out there all the time. And Governor Calvo, with Paul Jr., and Kathy, the family, they get involved. And one thing that always strikes me about the Calvo family, the Governor Calvo's family, is when they see him, the children, when they see him, they're not children, they're grown up. But when they see him, especially when Paul Jr. sees him and such, Governor Eddie sees him, they kiss him. And I think that's just wonderful. You know, they give me a kiss, hi dad, on the cheek, something like that. Because when my son Rocco's here during the summer, or whenever I see him, I kiss him all the time on the forehead. And he's not embarrassed. If I was doing that, going in and kissing my dad all the time, I'd be embarrassed. But no, that's how close they are. And they say what the first generation makes it, second generation, blah, blah, third generation spends it, whatever it is. That's not happened with the Calvos. It's not happened with Governor Calvos. They have a very good plan. It's not just Kathy and Paul. I mean, Mike Benito, the son-in-law, he's right in there at Payless, and he does other things too. And I think Governor Calvo realized that you can be a politician, you can be a business person, but after he served as governor, he said, okay, I'm going to be a business person. And he put himself back into the Calvo Enterprises. At that point, it was the three brothers running the companies. And I remember when he got back into the companies, because we'd had a property that his father was a part owner, Andrew Gale was a part owner, my grandfather was a part owner. My grandfather since had already passed away, and he came over and we negotiated, and I bought his interest out, and it wasn't a lot, but he was just going in there, consolidating all the companies again after being governor for 4 years, and putting his influence back into the enterprises again. I think he wanted just to serve his people. His brothers were more full-time business people, especially Eddie. But again, when he got out of politics and he jumped back into the company, you could see the differences that changed from his influence on the family business. He was very, very stable. His brothers were stable, but the governor is very stable. In 1992, commercial sanitation was the only hauler, the Kaplan brothers. And that's when land was going bonkers out here, and people were buying dirt as though it was gold. And Japanese company bought commercial sanitation for the real estate, not for the operation. And they weren't operators, so the operation went down quickly. And within a year, 2 years, garbage was not being picked up. One of our buildings had a restaurant in it, still does. They were getting cited for health violations because garbage wasn't getting picked up. I got together with some friends and we started Hagåtña Waste. Governor Calvo and his brothers got together with Ra Mandabami and started Mr. Rubbish Man. And so we went at each other for like 6 or 7 years. And finally I phoned up Mr. Rao one day, and who was also a wonderful man. I phoned up Mr. Rao one day and said, we're fighting each other. We both of us have taken an equal share of the market, and it's 90% of the market. Let's merge. So that's when I really got to know Governor Calvo well, not just during the negotiations, but during our first years of operations. And we clashed a little bit just as we were learning, and it was inevitable. And then, we melded and started what today is a tremendous company. And the synergy we got from combining, I wish I could do that every day with different companies. It was tremendous. But then I got to know Governor Calvo, and I got to see the full-time business side of him when I was dealing with him, and he's always been on the board, and it's been a wonderful experience. And the respect that I had for Governor Calvo in 1999 is nothing. It was great, but nothing compared to the respect I had for Governor Calvo in 2018. Governor Calvo he's a skilled negotiator. And he's dealt with heads of state, he's dealt with the governors, he's dealt with the legislature, and that's when we had 21 people he had to deal with. He's a good negotiator. But we both knew, everybody at the table knew what we wanted to do and what it would bring. So it was very, very fair. It's kind of like the old thing, well, I would have paid more. And the fellow said, well, I would have sold for less. So they're both happy. And so by the time we merged, and then you're dealing with attorneys and all that, but that's just bureaucratic red tape to make sure you do it properly. By the time we merged and had 12, 18 months in our pocket of operating together, he was my partner.
So it was a good deal.
Yeah, it was a very good deal, yeah. One of the fun things about working with the governor is whenever I see him, it's no longer, hey, Governor. When I get to see Governor Calvo, it's, hey, partner. And we give ourselves a class, the bro. And it's fun. I mean, so if I see him at Payless, we do it. If I see him at a function, we do it. So he's no longer Governor Calvo to me in the sense that he will always be Governor Calvo. But now he's partner, and to be able to be partner with Governor Calvo, it's rewarding. It's really, it's wonderful.
I first joined Calvo Enterprise in 2001 as the Chief Financial Officer for this company. And that was my first daily interaction with Governor Paul Calvo. And that was the beginning of a long relationship. Fortunately, my father was the controller, was the CFO at Calvo Enterprise many, many years ago. And my father passed away in the 90s, and there was a long gap in between. So when I retired in 2001, it was fortuitous. I met Eddie Calvo, and Eddie Calvo talked to me about if I'd be interested in joining the company. And so I said I was definitely interested. And that began a discussion, and I think he spoke with his brother Jerry and then with Governor Calvo, and they hired me. And as soon as I got on board, I realized that Eddie Calvo was the executive vice president, and Jerry Calvo was another vice president, and Paul Calvo was the man, was the president.
Did you have a different perspective before you went in?
I always, I never knew who was. I always knew that the three of them ran it together, but I never knew really what the hierarchy was. And I found out real quick.
How did you find that out?
Because, well, I saw the organizational chart when I was hired, and then I realized that he was the president and chairman.
Was that organizational chart an application as it was intended to be?
Yes, it was. It was. Here, it was. The three brothers would still decide collectively when it's a big decision. The signatures always would be the president. You know, if we're going to get a loan, we're going to purchase something, it would have been the president. But I think the three brothers, any major decision, they would have arrived at some consensus, you know.
Did they ever not arrive at a consensus?
I think many times.
And what happened then?
And then I think they would discuss it, and someone would prevail, whoever had the most compelling argument, you know, on it, and that's the direction we would go.
And how long would something like that take if they disagreed?
Not long, not long. They would resolve things very quickly over here. Yeah, the three brothers were pretty good at that.
That's a lot to say about them.
Yes, yes.
So there was not one ego that was larger than the other?
There always were. There's always that. But what I'm saying is that they worked it out. They always worked it out. And they always came to an arrangement, you know, with, there's always logic. And, you know, someone's always going to have a better argument for something, and that logic would prevail.
How are the brothers different?
Okay. Let me use the words of Paul Calvo. He says, I'm the diplomat. My brother Eddie is the fighter. My brother Jerry is the most lovable. He was like a magnet. He just attracted people, and he was very friendly, and people would be open to him. His brother Eddie was a very good businessman. By saying fighter, you know, you're not going to get one over him when you negotiate. He was the diplomat. Governor was the diplomat because he became the governor. So he was the one that could, I guess, walk around and bring compromise. So maybe that's the answer to your question.
So he will bring them together?
Yeah, yeah. He's very intense under pressure, and he's very focused on it, and he won't let up until that's resolved. And that's why earlier we talked about when there's conflicts or disagreements, why they're resolved relatively quickly. Is because of that. Is because he focuses on it, and he's so intense in it that he won't let it go until it's resolved. Some people work, they love to go to work, and their life is their work. And some people go to work for their lives, for their family. And Paul Calvo's like that. He goes to work for his family. You know, his work is not his life. His family is his life. Everything he does is for his family. We have a few companies under our belt. We have Calvo's Insurance. We have Pepsi Cola Bottling Company of Guam is another one. There's Title Guarantee of Guam, which is another company under Calvo Enterprise. We also have some joint ventures. For example, we have something we call MCSL. And this company, we are joint with another company on Guam, and we lease out a building next to Home Depot for the FBI and ICE. That's one. We also have some things up at Two Lovers. We have an operation up there, and then we contract out with someone to have some refreshments and food items up there.
How did you get in the Two Lovers Point venture?
Two Lovers Point, that was before I came here. It was a joint venture with the government and the Calvos. The government didn't have any money to promote or fix up Two Lovers, so they got into a public-private partnership. This is under, I think it was Lieutenant Governor Berdalio at the time, under Governor Gutierrez. She was in charge of beautification back then, and I think she started some public-private partnerships all over Guam, and one of them was with the Calvos on Two Lovers. So, and it works well for the government because it's a government facility. There's all those tourists that go over there, but it's basically maintained by us. So government gets a good deal out of that one.
What do you get out of it?
We also have the overlook. So that's ours. That's part of Calvo Enterprise. So whatever visitors go on that site, we charge there also.
You have a new pavilion.
That new pavilion, what we do is we've actually contracted that out. So while there is something there, it's not really a Calvo Enterprise. It's for light refreshments, yeah. That's all it is.
Nice place to go and watch the sunset.
It's a beautiful place to watch the sunset or sunrise. You go there. They have some tours. They make arrangements to go up there. And if you want to have a big party or something, we could probably arrange something like that. We have a self-storage facility that we've started. But the primary focus of our business here in the enterprise is real estate. So we rent buildings and property out there.
How did your father feel about working for Calvo Enterprise?
I think he liked it. My father worked in the government also. He was a director, and then when he retired, he came to Calvo Enterprise, and he worked here until he died. So he died in 1992, but he worked here all the way until he passed away. Never retired, so he must have liked it too.
Do you ever get compared to your dad?
All the time, but we're very different. We're very different.
In what way?
I think I went to college. My dad did not, so I think we're different in that way.
Principle versus practice?
I think principle's the same. I think for us, it's always honesty is important. You know, we want to do the right thing always. That dictates how you do. How you make your decisions, and I think that's what made it easy here, because I think Paul Calvo is exactly the same way. You know, if this is the right way to do it, then this is the way we go. So he is a friend. He is my boss. He's my superior. He's I'm not related to him, but I consider him like family because of the way he's treated me, and I think he does that not just with me. I think that he does that with pretty much everyone that he meets. His family was always so important. I mean, his family, everything that he does is about family. His work, everything is about family. Honesty. It's important for him to be honest in everything that we do and in his dealings. And I know that he gets bothered when he feels that things are not right, and he'll go out of his way to make things right. So honesty is very important to him. He's a very religious man. One of his favorite sayings is, "We are in the favor of the Lord." You know, whenever something good happens, he doesn't credit himself. He credits the Lord, and so that kind of tells you about the kind of person he is. He's a very caring person. He's sympathetic to people who We have people from all walks of life that come over asking for many different things, from handouts to assistance, and everyone always gets attention. Their needs either get addressed or somehow we deal with them one way or the other. But it's important for him to not leave anyone hanging. So he cares for people.
Why have you stayed here so long?
It's a wonderful place to work. These people are caring. They really do. They're honest. We do good things for the island. So and I feel good about that. The company does a lot of good things for the people of Guam, and that's important to me as well. And despite the criticism that the company gets sometimes because of our size, because we are a large company, most of it is unwarranted, and we really do go out of our way to try to take care of people and be good business people to our community.
With so much good, why do you get criticized?
I think it's the nature of Guam. There's politics that's involved, and as everyone knows, the Calvo family is definitely involved in politics, and politics makes for conflict sometimes. I think when there's a political attack at times, that may be directed at the governor or not necessarily us here at Calvo Enterprise because we are associated with the governor, some of that spills off on us. And that's what I mean by unwarranted.
My close relation with Paul Sr. really happened because when I was here, it was 1975, 76. We got hit with one of the largest storms the island has ever seen, and that was Typhoon Pamela. And from there, let me explain too. At that time, the Enterprise was right above us upstairs. So at that time, the Calvos were very, very involved in the insurance operations, as this being at the time, and still is, really, with a flagship company of the Enterprise. And basically, he would come down to me and talk to me and always told me, he said, in Chamorro, because I spoke Chamorro in the vernacular pretty well. I mean, well enough to communicate with a lot of our clients. And he always tells me, Adzuda iprohimusia, manama si tauto. So I started to believe that this product that we're selling over here meant something to them, that they had to go on ahead and basically service the client. They sold a product and they stood by the product, and we had to service it. So I was working with my brother all the way till 12 o'clock in the night. This whole area over here, the Guam Insurance Adjusters was across the street. There were people lining up. At the time, the structural integrity of the buildings in Guam were very compromised. They had concrete walls and everything, but they had a lot of corrugated tin roofs and things like that, and those all blew away. We had a storm that blew on top of us for 3 days. No water, no power, no nothing. People were under canopies and everything, and he would always come over, take care of our people, take care of our people. In the meantime, Eddie Calvo also, the late Eddie Calvo and Jerry Calvo were always coming to me with all their clients because we had the Chamorro book, and we still have that Chamorro book. And the main guy that was in this office with the whip was Mr. Henry Schnabel, because he was the general manager. And he would just come up. Well, with Henry Schnabel, really, I didn't get a name from him for a while, because I was noted when I first employed here as you. I didn't have a name. You come here, you do this, you do that. So I was wondering, well, what is this? Where am I at? Why am I not with my family business? And then Paul Sr. would come in, look and all that with Eddie and Jerry. Who is this? He says, and you know what he would say? We got another one of those Martinez kids again working for us, They have their own business, but they're over here again working for us, So, I felt, well, that was the protocol. And no, not really, but I was placed in a position where I was a neophyte. So I worked my way through, but it was just that really kept me in this company. It's how they believed in their product and how they basically wanted to help the people. They went on ahead and sold a policy, and they wanted it to perform. They wanted to help the people. So I was working with my brother till almost 12 o'clock in the nights, up and down. This whole area was full of people. And we felt sorry. They were with their kids and everything. The rain was on them. We were doing everything we could. I worked with Guam insurance adjusters because I knew a lot of the structural mechanics of a lot of these structures, and also the costing per square feet and damaged areas. So I was basically handling it from an adjustment and adjusting claims for them. And back and forth, people would be coming to me. And Eddie, and Paul Sr., Jerry, and also Henry were referring a lot of claims to me because most of it was really Chamorro. And basically I could speak the Chamorro pretty well because I was brought up in a family that spoke Chamorro as its main language, you know. So I can communicate. But they would follow it up. And I started to believe, I said, man, I'm working for people who basically believe in this product, and people who service the product, and people who go out of their way to help the people of Guam.
Weren't they worried that all the claims would choke them?
Well, it's a very big company. It's just that the island at the time, you know, we're in the middle of nowhere. And that's what it is when you say at the time you're from Guam. They got to look at it in the globe and they can't seem to find it. But anyway, it was just bringing resources in is what the problem was. And a lot of these areas that were damaged were not very accessible at times. And the island was flattened. And you could see from one village to the other village almost, you know. But we were out there helping them and everything. And it started to develop that credibility. We started listening to people, talking to them, helping them out. We were even getting tents for them, helping them, whatever we can do, over and above what is really normal. And they would always tell me to look and do whatever you can to help these people. And with their kids and everything like that. So that was when that's probably the first time that I've ever encountered the Calvo brothers. And they walked around always just checking the business. They'll come here every day, make sure everything's good, and always go to Henry Schnabel because he was the guy running the operations and everything.
Was he as sympathetic to the situation, or was he the businessman?
He was both. He was very sympathetic, but he was also the businessman. He carried a whip. He told you what to do and how to do it, and you better come up with something. So I figured, man, you know, this is a pretty strict company I work for. But it was just their belief on the product. So as we went on in life and everything like that, I mean, I've always known Paul Sr. to be a very religious person. I mean, I seen him in church all the time. I see him in wakes, funerals and everything, and he'd always be with his family, you know. But I give Paul something that I've noticed, although he's, you know, Paul Calvo, he's the oldest in the family and everything. And so were the other brothers. They were all humble. And no matter how you look at it, being humble is a real virtue in life. And I felt that, you know, I'm really working for a company that I can expand on.
So when did you stop being you? When did you get a name?
Well, I got a name. Well, from you, I ended up as Ray, and then I got some kind of a title. But then again, you know, the titles that they gave me at the time, they asked me what kind of title you want, but we're not giving you a raise. So I said, Jesus Christ, I mean, you know, okay, though they promoted me and everything like that. In fact, one time I came in over here and I was going to go before the board. I said, man, Henry, and this already, I'm 20 years in the company. I said, Jesus Christ, Henry, would you go on ahead and give me some kind of an increase? Or I've been here for 20 years. He turns around, looks at me, says, yeah, but that's 1 year experience repeated 20 times. So I said, what is this? You know, I mean, there were many times when I thought maybe I should just go back and work for him. At the time, my brother now became the general manager at Bay Rose. I just liked the way the company operated.
There was something about the discipline that hung you, huh?
Yes, it was discipline. And not only that, you know, I started to learn that insurance is a very intricate form of business. They pounded that in my head. It's not just a buy and sell operation. You had to know the coverages. You had to know what you were selling. You need to know to service it. And nobody wants to buy insurance. Anybody walking here doesn't have a smile. After they buy their new car or they buy the house, all of a sudden they gotta pay this premium now for insurance. So you never really had a smile or anything like that, but we treated our customers well.
But when they need to do a claim,
yes,
you're the one that's not smiling.
No, I did come with a smile. Of course, I'm happy to pay their claim because they paid us all that money. Basically, see, we're managing general agents for the insurance company. It's really their money that we're paying out on it and we're servicing it. But we bend all we can for our clients, you know. And you know, to be straight up with you, I've remember all these people way back during that time, and that's like maybe 40 some years ago. And a lot of them, God rest their soul, has passed away. And I see now a lot of their sons coming in buying insurance. And I see now their grandkids coming in and buying insurance from the same family. Do you remember me? Do you remember that?
Third generation.
Yeah, third generation. Some saying, it's that, I guess we really built a legacy of trust, like we always said, because they're still with us. They still trust us. So that name has really, in insurance, has come to a point where it has put us, I think, a cut above the rest.